Hello, everybody, and welcome to Personal Selling and Sales Management. I'm Dr. Erin Percival Carter, and I will be the professor for this class. It's a great class, and if I've had you in consumer behavior, which for many of you I likely have, or you might be in that class with me right now, you know that I think that this is a really important class for lots of people to take, but in particular, anyone who's majoring in marketing. That said, personal selling and sales management is an elective class here at the University of Maine. And so the way that I approach teaching this class is a little bit different than the way that I approach teaching my other courses, which are by and large a required course for 95% of the students that are enrolled. So the good news is that I think of sales as an incredibly generalizable skill set. So the way that I teach this course is going to be very focused and very based in science, which not all sales education is. And I'm going to focus a lot on the kind of training and the kind of high level thinking about sales that I think you should expect to get from a university class in sales, and not so much the super introductory stuff that you can very easily find a high quality introduction to if you just do like a Salesforce boot camp or get any kind of sales job that offers a modicum of training. So that's the way that I approach thinking about this class. And really, I think that a good foundation in thinking about branding and positioning goes a long way to cultivating the kind of personal selling side of sales, and then the sales management side of sales that we'll cover mostly in the second half of the class. A lot of that we can bring some really rigorous research-based thinking to. So a little bit about me to give you some idea of my background. I was a marketing undergrad, just like you. I also took a sales class in undergrad and found it really useful because my first job out of marketing undergrad was actually a marketing internship for a company called Centennial Woods, which was engaged in sales. So a lot of that was working with sales. So I started as an intern there, and then shortly was promoted to marketing manager for the holding company that had Centennial Woods in its portfolio. We also had work in energy, in battery technology, in the dining space. So I got a real breadth of sales experience there. So within Centennial Woods, we had government contracts. In the energy space, we often were working with governments as well. Lots of business to business work there. And then with Centennial Woods, and then certainly in dining, there was some business to consumer sales as well. So I have a breadth of experience within sales, and also within Salesforce management and CRM and thinking through the kind of higher level aspects of sales as well. So professional experience there. I always knew that I wanted to return to grad school, but wanted a little bit of work experience just to have it, and wasn't sure how long I wanted to be in industry before I returned. But eventually in that position, I decided that in fact I did want to go back and get my PhD in pretty short order, despite the fact that I loved that job and I loved the breadth and depth of opportunity that it afforded me. If anyone ever wants to talk about like why you should think about working for a startup out of an undergrad, I'm happy to talk about it. It's for a particular kind of person, but for a particular kind of person, I can't think of any way that you could get the amount of experience that you can get working in a startup as quickly. I don't know of anything else, unless you want to start your own company, obviously, which hopefully some of you do. I love working with entrepreneurs directly as well. So I left that position because I simply could not get my graduate school applications done and survive kind of a graduate school application season. At the doctoral level, you have to travel and do campus visits. There was no way I could do that while I was working the 80-hour weeks that I was as the marketing manager for the Blue Sky Group, which was the parent company. I think I forgot to mention the name of it. You could find it if you had Googled, but there it is. And I took a digital marketing coordinator position. So that was largely doing kind of SEO and training site managers on best practices, and doing a lot of analytics and thinking through kind of usage patterns on websites to make sure that we were promoting strategic messaging as effectively as possible on my undergraduate university website. So I took that position during my application year. Applications went well, and I went and got my PhD at the University of Colorado in Boulder. I am a judgment and decision-making scholar, which means that I primarily do behavioral research. I primarily do experiments. My methodological background is much more in the behavioral econ, social psychology, cognitive psychology space. And I do some work with big secondary data sets, but because my interests tend to be more individual decision-making level, and because I'm a control freak, I tend to like making my own data, which means running experiments, not making up my own data, creating my own experiments to collect exactly the data that I want and need to answer questions. I continue to do some consulting work, pretty selective about it, largely because my main focus right now is publishing academic research because I am tenure track. But I do some consulting work, and I very much enjoy that. I think it keeps me fresh and on top of it, and helps me to build connections in the state that I can then share with the rest of you, because obviously with an undergrad in Wyoming and a doctoral degree in Colorado, and then moving to Maine, my connections in the state were not initially strong, but I've definitely done some work to build up a network here, which is good for me, but also particularly good for helping to place students. So that's a little bit about me. Personally, I have a great husband. You might see him around the business school if you or he or I are around in person. So great husband, Cody. We have 2 kids. We live here in Orono on a farm. So if I record any of my videos from home and you think you hear cacophony in the background, it could be children. It could literally be farmyard animals. But I think for the most part, I'll be recording videos from the office. As far as materials for this class, required materials, I ask you to purchase 2 books, and that is largely predicated on the fact that, so these guys, Spin Selling. This is one of my favorite kind of science-based books, or more kind of science and data-based books. And then this guy, because it's inexpensive and a classic, and I think it gives you an orientation to a specific kind of sales education that I think it would be a disservice not to expose you to a little bit, and then to teach you how to think about which resources make sense for you and developing yourself as a salesperson. I will say that I expect that not all of you, but a lot of you will be students in my consumer behavior class. If you are not, I do not have them listed as required texts for this class because I cover them quite extensively in CB where they are required, but these books, Influence by Bob Cialdini. Sorry if I have my face in there that it wants to focus on my face. I don't care what version you buy, but you should if you haven't already purchased it for CB. This guy, Thinking Fast and Slow, although if you're not in CB and not going to be exposed to my kind of take and cautions on chapter 4, I will say take chapter 4 of this book with a very large grain of salt. It's a complicated issue, but by and large, the theories contained in those books are incredibly powerful, incredibly generative. I use them all the time in my academic research. When I thought about what are 2 texts that I really wish I had had as a marketing undergrad, that I would have used extensively immediately after graduation, those are the 2 that I settled on. So highly recommend that you dig into those books before graduation and keep copies on hand. I think that they're really important. A couple of other books that I'll recommend just as optionals. This guy. And the follow-up, sorry, I can't have my face in there. And I would make this required, but it's out of print and they're a little bit expensive if you can't find a good copy. But Attitudes and Persuasion, Classic and Contemporary Approaches, that's Petty and Cassioppo's. Great books. I'll recommend more throughout the course of the semester, but that's kind of an orienting preview of the kinds of things that I tend to recommend. And those are both for, like, what do I think is genuinely going to be the most useful, and affordability. And then we can and will pull in resources from lots of different industry, academic, kind of popular press texts over the course of the semester. So generally speaking, we'll certainly get more into this, but my approach to thinking about sales is that it is a general skill set that everyone can use. And some of you will be more committed to going into like formal quote unquote sales than others. I try to keep the class flexible and applied enough that people can show up knowing that they 100% want to go into sales and get a tremendous amount of use out of this. People can show up knowing that they probably don't want to get into sales, but leave with a lot of tools that they can use to kind of manage and position themselves and their own skill sets and their own ideas over the course of their life and career. And also for that person who shows up that's a little bit uncertain, maybe not sure what sales is, not sure what the potential of a career in sales might be, that they can kind of try on some of the skills and some of the activities of sales and establish for themselves over the course of the class whether or not this is something that you're interested in. But that said, I know that particularly with electives early on in these classes, people are doing a lot of trying it on and attempting to figure out what is and is not going to be a good fit for them. So in this class in particular, the intro survey that I ask everybody to do in that first bit of class is really important for me because I can adapt assignments, I can adapt lectures, I can even adapt individual people's kind of priorities and goals over the course of the semester to make sure that they're more consistent with what it is that you are hoping to get out of this class. So please do respond to that. If you are enrolled in this class, you have not only my email and access to me on Zoom or whatever the case might be, but you have my cell phone number, and I really mean it when I say that I would like to work closely with you and help you to develop your skills and ideas over the course of the semester. So please never hesitate to get in touch. I'm busy, but teaching and working with students is the most fun part of my job, and I take it really seriously. So always reach out if you're even considering it. And with that, I think I'll end this first video. Thanks so much, everybody. And I hope you're excited because I am. I also hope that I see you in a future video.